Okay, first up, Justin. Justin was elected Kaiwhakahaere last year. He grew up in the kōrero in the Waitaki Valley. He's been the chair of Te Rūnanga o Matariki since 2019 and was reappointed representative for Matariki in 2021. He resides on the pā. He's an executive member of Ngāi Tahu ki tua whenua, which represents the 7 papatipu rūnaka of the Queenstown Lakes area. He's also on the executive of Te Rūnanga Hine Matua. Please welcome Justin Tipa.
Kia ora mai rā tātou. Kai ngā tātare a tāne moi hau e tāwharau nei tō tātou huinga e haere tonu ana ngā mihi kia kūtau. Kai ngā tini uri a ngā tokorima tāutau a tahu pōtiki tēnā hoki tātou e pai nei a tēnā kūtau. Tēnā kūtau. Brace yourselves everyone, I've got a bit to say today, so buckle up, we might be here for a while. But I'm not going to talk about numbers, I'll leave that for the money people, I'm going to talk about us. And so today, I want to share how Te Rūnanga is thinking about our role within the tribe, how we're approaching the political forces at play in our country, and offer some reflections on the past year, and outline how we're preparing ourselves for the future. When I made my case last year to be the next Kaiwhakahaere, I made it clear that my fundamental belief is that thriving pā, thriving marae, and thriving communities are what makes a thriving iwi. I remain steadfast in that belief. If our marae are not thriving, if we have nowhere to come home to, if we are not on our whenua, in our ngahere, fishing our moana, our roto, our awa, if we have nowhere to feed our people, to bury our dead, or to lay down our tribal kōrero, if there is nowhere that te reo Māori is te reo waiū, we will not be thriving as Ngāi Tahu whānui. This is the reality for us as tangata whenua. This is the reality of rangatiratanga. This is the responsibility that we carry collectively as an iwi. The political circumstances of the past year have been a stark reminder of this. In response, we must be ever vigilant for forces that seek to disrupt our way of life and challenge our rangatiratanga. During these moments, it is worth imagining the strength of will that our tūpuna must have shown to survive and overcome the forces that challenge them in their lifetimes. Their experience is part of our tribal history. They are part of us. And the tribal structures that give form to our iwi today, the ones that make events like Huia Iwi possible, are an inheritance that we have received through efforts of our tūpuna, many of whom who lived through periods of unthinkable deprivation and poverty in the wake of colonisation. We stand on their shoulders. Ko tike I a rātau tēnei ara te takahi, tēnei ara te whakatauira. In that context, it is an honour to address you here today as the chairman of Te Rūnanga o Ngāi Tahu. I take this role seriously, and I know that all of our Rūnanga representatives on the Te Rūnanga board take it seriously too. We know that at the heart of Ngāi Tahu, the tino rangatiratanga of Ngāi Tahu resides in our pā and our marae, and in the people that breathe life into them. But I also firmly believe that our central post-settlement institution, Te Rūnanga, is key to our success, both as an iwi and as hapu and tribal members. Like any institution, it will go through different stages of evolution. It will do some things well, and it will do some things not so well. Marama pai tātou ki tērā. And it's the responsibility of us as Rūnanga representatives, Te Rūnanga leadership, to be constantly reflecting on the decisions that we're making and the direction that we're heading in. I acknowledge all our people who have held these positions at various points in the evolution of Te Rūnanga. It's a significant responsibility, and the expectations weigh heavy. But regardless of the criticisms that have been levelled at Te Rūnanga, and we heard some of those on the pie yesterday, and perhaps some that will be coming in open forum tomorrow, we have to admit that what we've been able to achieve so far is worthy of some praise. E kore te kumara e ki ake, he māngaro ia, engari he wā tōna me hākari I ngā hua te ringa raupā. We are 26 years post-settlement. There has been no map or template for us to follow. We've had to build our tribal institutions from the ground up, using the tools that were available to us at that time. Make no mistake, our people are pioneers. Our efforts to build modern institutional infrastructure of the Tahu Nation has been a step into the unknown. Every day we're grappling with the question of what it means to be Ngāi Tahu in a rapidly changing and at times very volatile world. We will never escape that question, but through effort, we might get progressively better at providing practical answers from one generation to the next. That's what I want for Te Rūnanga. I don't want Te Rūnanga to look or sound like a Crown agency. I want our institutional infrastructure to reflect our unique identity as the Tahu Nation. I want our rūnanga, our marae, and our people to take pride in the fact that they can call on the centre for targeted and sharp support for the mahi that they're doing on the ground to exercise rangatiratanga in their rohe. I want the Crown, I want the councils and big business to be on their toes in our takiwā, because they know Ngāi Tahu has a strategic, economic and administrative powerhouse at the centre, ready to be deployed at a moment's notice. I want our communities, ahakoa kōwai, ahakoa nōhea, to be thankful that they live in the Kai Tahu takiwā, because they know tahu are a force and that we're looking out for the best interests of all our communities, whānau, natural environment and resources. That's where I want to go. That's the type of presence I want to have in our takiwā and in this country. To me, that's what it means to carry ourselves as rangatira. Rangatiratanga and treaty partnerships have been discussed a lot this year. We've been actively engaging with the coalition government, and it is true that our relationship with the government is strained at the moment. It's not easy to see eye to eye with this government, but we're not going to walk away from the table. When things get hard, that's exactly when we need to be at the table, doubling our efforts to defend and advance our positions. We know that some politicians and certain subsets of the Pākehā community would rather avoid having to deal with us. My view is that if we carry ourselves as rangatira and develop a sharp and strong institutions of our own, they won't have a choice. We've got the Prime Minister coming to visit us again in the new year, and me and Tania will be there first, sitting right across from him. That's what we signed up for. Our rangatiratanga is not dependent on the Crown's permission or the political fashion of the day. Tā tipene, Uncle Charlie and others of their generation made sure of that. Our identity as the Ngāi Tahu tribe has independent and legal personality in this country, and our rangatiratanga is confirmed and recognised in our settlement. Let us never forget the significance of those facts. Tā tipene tēnā koe kei te noho nama tonu tō iwi ki a koe. We will continue to fight this government legislation and policy that subverts our rangatiratanga. Just as we have the recent examples like the Treaty Principles Bill and the changes to the Marine and Coastal Area Act. However, we need to look beyond what the Crown dangles in front of us. That's what I love about our statement of claim over fresh water. I won't go into that now, but I will be talking about our claim shortly. But I just want to highlight that the claim is a pou in the ground for our rangatiratanga as the Tahu Nation. We're making a distinctly Ngāi Tahu argument that sidesteps political and bureaucratic processes and cuts right to the heart of the treaty relationship. My point is that we need to carry ourselves in a way that makes our rangatiratanga an unavoidable reality in modern New Zealand. We've got to be clever and considered, directing our resources into areas that will pay off in the long term and break new ground for generations to pick up on, just like the fishhooks that our old people left for us in the settlement. This is the definition of intergenerational strategy. There are many examples of we're already doing this, but as I mentioned, our post-settlement institutions are still young. Rangatahi tonu tātou. We are pioneers, but we're still learning and growing. And another thing, before everyone worries I'm turning into a Ngāi Tahu isolationist, we can't be too proud to acknowledge that we can't do it all on our own. The past year has been a good reminder that there is a time and a place for kotahitanga within te iwi Māori whānui and with others who share our values and aspirations. Our former Kaiwhakahaere Lisa Tūmahai gave me that advice when I came into this role, and I've kept it in my mind as we've navigated the political developments in the past year. We've participated in the National Iwi Cheers Forum and used this channel to advocate on behalf of iwi around the motu. You may have also seen Ngāi Tahu has been active at Tūranga Waiwai Marae at Koro Neihana, the tangi of Kingi Tuheitia and the whakawāhinga of Matariki Nui Kuini Ngā Waihonui Te Pō. More recently, we contributed to the national discussion on kotahitanga by hosting Te Pūnui o Toka, our response to the Huia Motu, and that kaupapa that was started by the late King in January. Over 2,000 people from across the motu descended upon Tuahiwi to hear what the southern wind had to say. Te Pūnui o Toka was about challenging us as iwi Māori to look at innovative ways that we can organise ourselves as iwi to ground and implement our rangatiratanga practically. We have received some great feedback on the hui, and I believe we delivered a kaupapa to the motu that was innovative and which offered a practical pathway for te iwi Māori to pursue kotahitanga and mana motuhake. Most importantly, we did it our way in a true Ngāi Tahu fashion. Tuahuriri carried out tikanga and a full range of Ngāi Tahu delicacies were laid out for our manuhiri. I've had many comments from people across the motu and how impressed they were by the bulk of the kai that was served was kai Māori, Ngāi Tahu kai tūturu. I want to take this opportunity to again thank our whanaunga of Tuahuriri and in fact all our Papa Te Rūnanga and hapu, whānau, kaimahi that contributed to making Te Pūnui o Toka what it was, ka mutu pēr tā tātou whakamanuhiri I te motu. This week as well, I know a large number of Ngāi Tahu whānau attended the hikoi mo te tiriti. I was unable to be in Pōneke on Tuesday, but I did join the rōpu as it passed through Christchurch last week. It was humbling to see our people and the wider community out on the streets taking a stand on this important issue. If the government ever had any hope they might be able to manoeuvre the Treaty Principles Bill through Parliament and get it passed, I think that hope has well and truly been trampled now. So we're active, e hoa ma. We're participating in national kaupapa, we're taking strong stances in the media and public discourse, and we're standing shoulder to shoulder with te iwi Māori whānui. You might have seen me literally standing shoulder to shoulder with te iwi Māori at Koro Neihana this year. There are a few surprised faces to see Ngāi Tahu standing to speak on behalf of the kīngitanga, let me tell you. But there is absolutely a place for kotahitanga. However, I also hold true to the view that kotahitanga starts at home. It's great to participate in kotahitanga at a national level, and in some ways it's actually easier. Kotahitanga at a national level is inspiring, it's full of energy, but it's also fleeting and inherently unstable. It's great when it happens. It's built from the ground up, from within our whānau, from within our hapu and our iwi. True kotahitanga is built on whakapapa and a common story that we can share in. The type of kotahitanga we can achieve as Ngāi Tahu is more durable and more agile than anything we can achieve on the national stage. It's one of our greatest strengths and it makes us a true force to be reckoned with. Our kotahitanga as a tribe, and more specifically as Te Rūnanga group, has been a big focus for me and Tānia since we've come into the Kaiwhakahaere and deputy roles. When we were going around our marae, we heard the expectation that Te Rūnanga leadership must be visible on the ground. People wanted transparency and accountability. We've taken that to heart and we've tried to get out on the ground and be present on our pā and our marae. That is a standing commitment, and I want to reaffirm here that in the year to come, we will continue to get out and about and hear from our people directly. We can't be at everything, but if you've got a kaupapa and you think there's a role for us to play, I welcome you reaching out. This is all part of making sure that Te Rūnanga is relevant to our people, relevant to Papa Te Rūnanga. And that's something I want to commend our recently appointed Chief Executive Officer, Ben Bateman, on. I want to commend Ben on his efforts. Ben has supported us with this priority, getting out to visit our Papa Tipu marae through the advancement of the kaupapa auahi auora. This is a work stream designed to ensure regional aspirations are reflected in the decision-making and operations of the Te Rūnanga group. Auahi auora has been producing great insights and has contributed to the deep alignment of views between the Te Rūnanga board and our executive team under Ben's leadership. Ka nui te mihi kia koe e Ben. So a mihi to Ben for the diligence you have shown and the hard yards you have put into this point. Ben's proven he's up to the task in front of us, and that's why we were very pleased to appoint him to this role. Another priority for me coming into the role was continuing to shift towards a tikanga-based decision-making and having a strong cultural presence. I've already said we're a young institution. There's no template that we can pull out to tell us how to build tikanga-based institutions for the modern world. Tēnei au, kōrero e noho nei tātou. We're transforming ourselves over time, and we're figuring out how we can do things in a way that accords with our tikanga. Mō Kāori is another step on that journey, and I know that as a leadership team, we are committed to making the required changes to implement a more tikanga-driven and authentically Ngāi Tahu operation environment and structure. And the great thing about transitioning to a new tribal strategy is that it provides us with the opportunity to take a good look at ourselves in the mirror. I've been talking up a big game on what I want to see for Te Rūnanga and the tribe. But first things first, we've got to make sure our house is in order. And this is perhaps more important now than it's ever been. We're seeing some major shifts on the national and global political environments. This necessitates that the institutional infrastructure of our iwi is finely tuned to protect and uphold our rangatiratanga and deliver maximum value for investment with every tribal dollar that is spent. We've got to make sure that the way we're managing our tribal assets and spending our tribal pūtea is sustainable and conducive to long-term success. If it isn't, all our kōrero about intergenerational strategies and intergenerational decision-making, he pahu noiho. They're just empty words. To get our house in order and to implement more Kāori effectively, we've got to ask the big questions and get down to the detail. As a board, we have committed to doing that, and we are doing that. I'll leave it to Ben to share a bit more about what that looks like practically and from an implementation perspective. He māmake te kōrero Māori māku. We also touch on it again as we talk about more Kāori āpōpō. Another part of getting our house in order is making sure everyone in the house knows what each other is doing and where they're heading. The centre can't be the centre if it lacks cohesion and a common understanding of its core purpose. We need to be one team, one house, kia kotahi te whare o tahu. A tight-knit group that is agile, united by a common vision, and responsive to the needs and aspirations of our people. We're making good progress on the internal cohesion between Te Rūnanga and Ngāi Tahu Holdings. And on that note, I do want to express how pleased we are to welcome the new chair of Ngāi Tahu Holdings, Warwick Tauwhare George, to our team. It's an exciting time to join Te Rūnanga Group, and I know that he's coming with the right mindset to contribute to the next stage of our evolution. Now, before I wrap up, I want to acknowledge that I've talked a lot about organisational transformation, managing the changing political dynamics, kotahitanga, getting our house in order, and all the work that we have to do to start achieving this stuff. But let me be clear, I know that none of this is meaningful unless we, as individual tribal members and whānau, have an authentic connection to our identity as tahu. And that message has come through loud and clear through more Kāori, and actually I know that to be real in my own life. So part of the common purpose of Te Rūnanga Group must be focused on supporting our connection to our tuakiri, to our Ngāi Tahutanga. I'm thinking here of flagship programs like Kotahi Mano Kaika, Kotahi Mano Wawata, Ngāi Tahu Whakapapa, and the archive. The type of programs and functions that are unique to us and which provide opportunities for tribal members to connect with our whakapapa and the story of Ngāi Tahu. The mahi that ensures we will remember who we are, where we come from, and the people that have contributed to the Ngāi Tahu story. Reflecting on this year, I can't help but think of Uncle Charlie in this context. I think about how he was the first Kaiwhakahaere of Te Rūnanga o Ngāi Tahu, and I now stand where he once stood. I draw a lot of strength from the fact that I know I'm participating in the same Ngāi Tahu story that he did. I think about the time that he was born into and when he grew up. how he played so many different roles during the course of his life and contributed to our story in such a significant way. I imagine how proud he would be if he got to see our people host the national Matariki hautapu this year, and to see the multiple generations of Ngāi Tahu speaking our reo and practicing our tikanga on the national stage. He wasn't there to see it, but we were. And that's what it means to participate in the intergenerational story of our iwi. That's what it means to have intergenerational vision. And there's many more examples of this playing out across the marae and across our iwi. We've got amazing people doing amazing things. So I want to encourage us to support and uplift each other in the different spaces and places in which our tribal members are striving and succeeding. Because the Ngāi Tahu story belongs to us all. We are part of it, whether we like it or not. And I'm going to end it there, I think. I hope that gives you a bit of a taste on how we're thinking about the role of Te Rūnanga within the tribe as we move into the future, and how this will frame our transition into the next 25-year strategy mō kauri. Nō reira, kei taku tuakana rāwiri, koutou o Ngāti Kuri e manaaki nei tā tātou hui, e manaaki nei tō tātou hui, tēnā koe, tēnā koutou, kei aku paua, aku taua e raurangatirama, koutou ngā ringa ngā wāwai o tō tātou iwi, tēnā koutou e heke ana.